If you're looking for a film emulation or color grading software solution for photo or video, I might just have the answer for you. The folks at Dehancer reached out recently and asked if I'd be interested in reviewing a new version of their software for Adobe Premiere. As luck would have it, of course, I don't really use Premiere that much anymore, but I noticed they had a version for Photoshop, Lightroom, and Capture One. So in other words, it works for film and video. I use Capture One and Photoshop daily, and I asked if I could take a look at their Capture One version because I thought it might be useful in my retouching workflow. So I started to play around with the software a little bit, and I was really quite impressed how easy they've made it to emulate traditional film looks and to do color grading, that kind of thing. And that's just the beginning of what this program has to offer. Let's jump in and take a look. Hi guys, Paul here with Pat Tech. So as you might have guessed, Dehancer sent me the program, but they're not coercing me in any way as to what to say about this program, so my opinions are going to be mine and mine alone. The program operates as a plugin, and once it's installed, you access it by clicking on the photo in Capture One, and then selecting Edit, and then click on the Dehancer plugin to open the program. So let's jump into Capture One, and I'll walk you through the software, and let's see what it can do. Okay, so as you can see, I'm in Capture One, and the first thing I'm going to do is just right-click on, let's see here, Edit With, and I'm going to come down and browse for the plugin. And just note here where it says Program Files, I made a mistake of trying to load the plugin from my Downloads folder. Big mistake. Once you've acquired the software, you'll get a zip file and it has all the README stuff in it. Just make sure that you put your Dehancer Lightroom exe file in the program files location. Otherwise, you'll have an issue when you go to open up the program the second time. Don't ask me how I know that. Okay, so pretty straightforward. We're going to double click on the executable, and you get this little menu that opens up. You want to make sure that your color space is set to sRGB. That's important. And then click on Edit the Variant. And it takes a second, but voila, the interface opens up and you have a fairly nice looking user interface. So what you'll notice on the left-hand side here is we click on Films, and you have, you can save your favorites, but you've got color negative, motion picture. So there's a range of different options that you'll have for choice. And then just below that, you've got just a plethora of different film styles that you can choose from for grading. And so you can make a selection there. And, simplest thing to do is just, you'll see the ADOX color implosion. Hope I've said that right. But then I'll just hit the down arrow key and you can cycle through and see exactly what each one is going to render for you. So this is very well thought out, really slick little program in my humble opinion. Okay, so one small housekeeping thing I thought we should do before we move on here, and that is over on the left hand side here. So let's say you've selected, in this case here I'm going to select Agfa color 100. That's great. Okay, and then you've got your EV adjustment here. So moving the slider left or right gives you quite a range of adjustment. And then I'm clicked on this one here. If I hit the down arrow, I can scroll through the different color grades. And then if I use the mouse wheel and just scroll through, you can see like it's just an infinite range of different color grades and film emulations that you can choose. Even black and white here. The sky is the limit with this program. It really is phenomenal what you can do with this program. What you want to do is once the software is installed and you're using it for the first time, come on up here to the settings icon, click on that and update your film profiles. That'll make sure that no matter when you install the program, you want to make sure that you get the latest set of presets that are being included with the plugin itself. And if you just hit this button here, that'll make that happen for you. And then you've got some other information available like your licensing, the video card that you're using, And then down here, render fast preview for images larger than. So if you're finding your machine is, maybe you've got a low power PC, or it's the machine's struggling a little bit, you've got some adjustment here with the previews that you can select once you make that choice. And by the way, 10 megapixels is what mine was set at, and I haven't had any issues so far using the program. So once you've made your selection, you can hit close, and we'll move on from there. Okay, so let's finish up with the controls that you have on the left side of the user interface, and then we'll move on to the right side. So up the top here, you have a presets button where it allows you to save your own presets. So if you're looking through the different grades or film emulations and you find one you like and you've made a bunch of settings, you can save those settings here. So you can go in and select the preset. I don't have anything in here as yet. And then also you can put them in a certain order, or you can delete them. You can move them up and down as you wish. So that's kind of handy. You can also not delete, but you can close the panel out if you don't want to see the panel. You have your settings button here. You can show the settings. If you just hover over the buttons here, you can see restore last used settings. You have that option. Right beside that is reset all settings to the default. And then beside that, you've got undo your last edit. So pretty straightforward. Next thing we want to look at is where the real magic happens, and that is the right-hand side of this user interface. If you thought there was a lot of options on the left side, on the right-hand side, you're going to be blown away for sure. Okay, so let's start at the top right here by just clicking on this one-to-one button, and what you can see is I can just use my cursor and move my image around. I can use the scroll wheel on my mouse back and forth to zoom in and zoom out, and then I can quickly click on that button again and go right back to square one. So let's just zoom in a little bit here. If you want to see the effects or be able to see the effects, you have to have the preview box checked off here. If I take that off, then you're looking at the original image that I started with. So I'll put that back on. On the right hand side, you've got cancel and OK. So basically whatever you're doing to your image, you're going to click OK and process it out. And the interesting thing I should point out at this point is that in Capture One, when you start with your image, when you click on OK, what the program does is it makes another variant with all of your edits applied to it. So that's kind of cool. It's non-destructive. You're not playing around with your original image or going to damage the original image. So panels on the right, you've got source here, and you've got some temperature and tint controls. You have defringe. So if you have some chromatic aberration issues with your image, you've got a way to modify that here. So close this one here. Under expand, you can play with the black and white point. And you've got two options for color mode, which normal and luma. And I'm just going to leave it set to luma. Under print here, you've got a number of options. So say you wanted to give your image the cine logged look. You have that. Maybe you want to take the image into another program and color grade it. I don't know. But you have the ability to do that. You also have a number of adjustments here for exposure, contrast, saturation. And let me close this one here. And color head is your ability to modify the color density. So you can play with the yellow and blues, magenta and green, cyan and red. And then you've got another couple of adjustments down here, but essentially you're playing with the color density in the image. And if I just move these sliders here, you can see the changes that are being made, and it doesn't take very much to make the change. So you have that option as well. Film grain is probably, I think, is one of the most fun options in this program. And so just by taking the size slider here, right away you can see that there's some film grain been applied to the image. So it's the default, whatever the sliders are set at. A couple options down the bottom here, but just by taking the size and moving it to the right a little bit, you can apply less or more grain depending. You can play with the resolution, the shadows, midtones, highlights, the color itself. So I mean, I say it again, but you could be playing with this program for absolutely hours. So for the last three effects, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. Let me just turn this off here. So I found this picture that I shot in Bilbao, Spain in 2014. So I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go to edit with, and I'm going to come down to browse. I'm going to select the Dehancer Lightroom plugin. We're going to click edit the variant like we've been doing. And right away, there's your clone. So the plugin is non-destructive. So now if I expand this, let me just move this up here. I'm going to come over on the left-hand side and I'm going to turn the film profiles off. So what you're looking at is the original image. Now when I come over here, I can close my panels. We've done print, we've done color head, film grain. Halation is the one that we're looking at. And so now if I start moving the dials around over on this side, and I'll try and, make as dramatic a change as I can. And we'll just see. It might be a little bit harder for you to see, but I can really see the lighting changing, especially in the oranges on the building up here, when I toggle on and off. And so now let's compound that with, or maybe what we'll do is let's turn this off. We'll close halation. Let's take a look at bloom. And so now let's modify the bloom effect here. See if I can show you something. Try and make a drastic change here. So let's turn the bloom on and off. Yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit hard for you to see, but I can definitely see the modification in the lighting. So that's quite interesting. And then last but not least, for vignetting, pretty straightforward. So as soon as I check that on, the default comes on. You can see this is pretty dramatic. You should be able to see this fairly easy. So that's, I'm turning the exposure down quite dramatically. And now modify the size and the feather. And so vignetting is pretty straightforward. It works pretty much the same as what you have in Photoshop. You just have a little bit more control in this program. So in this segment, I'm going to show you a classic example of what this software could do for you if you're trying to please a client. And if you look down the bottom here, so here's an original image of a metalwork shop that's in the town where I live. And I walked by this with my wife 2 years ago, and I just knew I had to do an HDR composite with it. And then I put the owner against a white backdrop, and I ended up with this result. I did 2 or 3 different renders in HDR, but this is a classic example of something that would lend itself to Dehancer. So let's double click here, edit the variant, and then we're going to click on expand. And so now you might want to go to something like instant. So say your customer has, requested something like a Kodak Instamatic look or something like that. This program is literally 1 click and you can toggle through. There's a black and white variation, and then you can take this from there and you can add film grain and yada yada. The sky is the limit. So it really lends itself to client work, especially when you get a special request for something that has to be retouched, something that has to be antique, something that has to be color graded. This program is, I know it's not exactly 1 click, but 1 click and you can see so many different variations of on a theme. It's just a fantastic option for your workflow. Okay, folks, so I'm going to wrap it up there. I think I've given you a fair amount of information to help you make an informed decision if this is a program that you want to add to your arsenal. It's definitely a solid program. The user interface is excellent in my humble opinion. And the good folks at Dehancer have offered a promo code. I'll put that up on the screen for you. So thanks again for watching. If you found the video useful, please hit the subscribe, like, and smash the notification bell. And I'll have more content for you in the not too distant future. And take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.